Right now, I'm sitting with Troy Alcala and Anthony Gonzalez of The Thinker, who have just come off a Good Morning Kapatid in Manila. How are you guys doing so far?
Good.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
doing
we're doing
great.
good. Doing good. Yeah.
All right, so what was it like recording for a TV5? I saw on your Instagram that it was your second time on the show. Is that correct?
Technically, it's our first time on that show, but it was on the same studio, so under the same network, national television, and it was actually on live television. The first time it was pre-recorded, rather.
So what was it like recording for TV5? What was it like recording for them?
Um,
Uh, Go ahead, Troy.
Pre-recording is kind of easier because we have more ample time to prepare, to rehearse, to dress up. But with live TV, it's kind of very intense because every second count. So yeah, that's what happened this morning.
Oh, really? What happened? So this morning it was live. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's live.
It was. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was actually my fault. So I had to drive like 2 hours from where I'm living, and then I had to drive all the way to the studio. So it took some time for me. Our call time was 4:30. It was there quarter to five. So yeah,
Oh,
we barely had time to set up everything.
well, either way, I'm sure your show must have sounded really great. But now, this is out of kind of curiosity, so let's just start from the beginning. How did you two meet? How was the Thinkers formed?
We met here 2014 at the event with our company. Anthony and my wife, our manager, Axis, they were workmates, different department, but with the same company. So they had a music festival of sort. And my previous band and his previous band were scheduled to perform on that event. And that's where we introduced to one another. When our drummer at the time can't make it to a gig, we asked Anthony to fill in as the session drummer. And from then on, we started a friendship and a working relationship as occasional bandmates. And eventually, a permanent bandmates when the Thinkers were formed.
So the Thinkers, since you mentioned about work, so the Thinkers isn't a full-time thing between you two. You still have a job outside of music. Is that correct?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. We do. I work as an implementation manager for a US-based company in San Ramon. So I work in the software company, software as a service. So far, since it's following US or Pacific, US Pacific. So I work on the night shift.
And I am a practicing architect.
Ooh, so now with being an architect, it's kind of like a creative career, and for you too, Anthony. So what's it like trying to balance making your music together and then just working on your 9 to 5s?
Usually gigs are set at night, and my job is the normal 9 to 5. But I have some side projects that I can work on during the night or during the weekends. But with how I juggle being a musician and an architect, it's just time and energy management. So
No.
you have to, yeah.
Yeah. Now, for some of our listeners who may be on the younger side of things, who are learning how to balance their responsibilities and their creative pursuits, do you have any advice for them?
Just stay healthy. Because it's hard to do both when you're not healthy mentally and physically. So you just have to do it if you love it.
Yeah, I agree with Troy. So if you love something, just even if it's, if you love something, just keep on doing it.
Right, that's great to hear. That's great to hear as a college student, and that's great to hear for some of our younger listeners as well who are also kind of dealing with that. I'm really amazed at you two for being able to balance that time and being able to still be creative, given still having to work a quote normal job. Now,
Yeah.
Now, between you two, what's your songwriting process like? Who's the one that's composing the music and who's the one writing the lyrics, or do you both work on that together?
In terms of writing our songs, for now I write the entirety of the drop and then I will give it to Anthony to work on his part. So it's like I will start the song and Anthony will polish it and we will work in the studio until we are both satisfied with the arrangement of the song. So it's still a collaborative partnership, collaborative work.
Exactly.
All right. So, Anthony, have you tried writing any of your music of your own, say, for the Thinkers?
Yeah, prior to joining the Thinkers, like what Troy mentioned, I was in another band. So I used to be the front man for that band, and all of our songs were originally composed by me. So yeah, but for the Thinkers, I don't think I'd be able to create one or write songs for the Thinkers. It's just that although we like the same genre, I don't think my songwriting fits the theme of our of the Thinkers. Yep.
Yeah,
So
but
it's more on a alternative pop rock for my
but we were just starting out, so it's early to say that Anthony
yeah,
can write
exactly.
a song for the Thinkers. But we're always open to any. Both of us can write, can start an idea, even a demo or a beat. We can work on that as long as we work on it together.
All right. Well, speaking of themes and genres, how would you describe the sound of the Thinkers? How would you describe the music that you make? What are some of the influences that you have come across that make the Thinkers what they are?
We are a rock band, so our genre revolves around the rock music, around rock music. But we can incorporate different kinds of genres like pop, dance, electronic, anything as long as
But our greatest influence, and as if you'll notice, especially if you're a millennial, most of our greatest influence would be in the 90s rock era, mostly grunge, alternative music or rock music back in the 90s. Yeah, we're
Nirvana,
trying to bring that back. Yeah, Nirvana, Smashing Pumpkins,
Oasis,
Oasis. Yeah,
and a lot more.
yeah.
Well, in that case, that makes you guys a perfect fit for VIC. We actually have a specialty show here on the station called Flannel and Feedback, which is always about 90s grunge music, actually. And with that being said, what's the general music scene like in Manila, at least? Especially with the independent scene? Now that since P-pop is rising globally, OPM has such a stronghold on the Filipino diaspora, especially here in the States. I'm kind of curious what the independent music scene is like in the Philippines.
Anthony?
Yeah, the Philippines airwaves is currently dominated by pop music. I heard that you're Filipino as well, right? So yeah, by nature, Filipinos are melodramatic. um, are melodramatic. They prefer ballad music over rock. So that's what Troy and I are trying to accomplish here, to go against the flow, try to bring rock back into the mainstream. So in terms of airplays, radio plays, it's currently dominated by pop music, ballad, love songs, and of course K-pop. But the indie scene is actually thriving, if I can describe it. So if you say go around the metro, come to a bar, any bar that plays live performances, you'll hear a lot of indie, or you'll see a lot of indie performers. Currently in the Philippines, I think indie artists are more dominant than those that have contracts. Right, Troy?
Yeah, we have a very diverse underground scene. So if you want to learn more about rock bands or different genres of rock here in the Philippines, you just have to go out and find them. You can't hear them on the radio, so you just have to watch them live.
That's great to hear that the indie music scene in the Philippines is thriving right now, especially since you have all those global forces coming in and just dominating Philippine airwaves. Now, with your live performances, what was it like having your first live show as the Thinkers?
It was great and memorable. We had a hard time finding our first gig.
Yeah.
Say that. What makes you say that? You have great music.
Yeah, but that's what I realized here. Even though you're not a newbie here, once you have a new band and you're just trying to break into the scene, it's not that easy to find your crowd or
Exactly.
or production or organization uh, that will want to include you in their roster or in their events. But yeah, our first gig was very memorable. We we played very well. Yeah, and we're very proud of it.
It was in Sagiho, right?
Yeah.
Just an FYI, Sagiho was actually a famous um, bar in the Philippines. So most of the mainstream bands had their call that their debut on that bar, and most of the well-known artists in the Philippines played there. So it was exciting and amazing as well.
If
Right.
you perform in Sagiho, you're a legit music
Really?
artist.
Yep.
Really,
Yeah.
because I can already think of a few places in America where like if you perform in those kind of spaces, like that's where you're kind of in with the crowd. So it's
Mm.
nice. So I think it's kind of funny, like wild to hear that the Philippines and Manila kind of has their own spot just like that. That now,
That-
now with like being in a space like that and being up and performing, I'm sure there's other parts too that are really rewarding for you guys as artists. So what's the most rewarding part that you have had, whether as the Thinkers or in your own project or in your own bands before, or what was the most rewarding part of being an artist?
To be able to create our own, and the moment we record the songs and when we're listening to it, it's kind of surreal to listen to something legit. It's like listening to other artists, but the fact is, we are the ones who recorded and wrote that song. For me, that's the most rewarding thing aside from being recognized.
Correct.
Yeah,
Globally,
being paid,
being played
being paid.
yeah. International radios. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very fulfilling for us. Um, for me, playing on national television, uh, and also playing on the prestigious Wish Bus. So Wish Bus is literally a bus, a famous bus here in the Philippines where mainstream artists play. So same as Sagiho, if you played on that bus, that means you're call that. How do I say it? You're in, or
Yeah.
you're almost there.
Yeah, you're like legit, just like what Troy has been saying.
Yeah.
Saying.
Mm.
Now,
Exactly.
now, like with radio and especially with international radio, since you submitted to us, you're always on your Instagram page. I think is my favorite part of your being a band outside of your music, because you're always showing your engagements. You're always showing when you're performing, when your music is being played. You're showing also like interviews like these. Like, how did that come about? How did that come about? Just posting and promoting yourself on Instagram like that. Just being able to shout out the places that you're featured in.
Well, it's all thanks to our social media team. We have our own social media managers, team. So aside from our manager, they come up with ways on how to interact with our audience, as well as their daily or weekly posting on our social media pages.
All right, and this is kind of like a way for you to like foster a community and to really just connect with your fans and just connect with the people that you work with. Is that just what I'm hearing? Is that something that you really, really care about as artists? Is being able to have that connection with your fans through social media and just generally being great people online?
Yeah. We formed quite a few friendships with other artists from other countries, in the US, UK, even in Latin America. Yeah, in production, like you, radio stations.
All right, that's really great to hear. It's something that I don't necessarily hear a lot of artists doing, especially independent artists. I think I just hear mostly just on social media, but with cultivating that kind of community is something that I really commend you guys for doing. Now, just unfortunately, we are nearing the end of our interview, but are there any future plans and goals for you guys as a band or as individuals that you have for the year or just later down the line?
As a band, as a band, we're going to finish our first full-length LP this year, and we're aiming to release it at the end of the year. So maybe a 10-song album, all original. Yeah, and we will try to market it across the globe. Fingers crossed. So that's the major project as of now. The album.
Yep. And aside from that, we're actually aiming for playing outside the Philippines. Probably start within Southeast Asia at least, or East Asia as a whole. So that's our main goal for this year, aside from the upcoming album. Hopefully, the United States as well.
Hopefully, it would be nice to see you guys up here in Ithaca and really play in person on this Ivy League campus. Play first the Ivy League airwaves finally in person. Now, before we wrap it up, is there anything else that you two would like to say to our listeners at home?
Keep on supporting the band. Thank you for supporting and listening to our music. Keep on doing that. Expect more from us. We're going to release more songs on album. And follow us on all our social media pages.
Yeah. If you haven't followed us, just search for us. On Facebook, it's The Thinkers. On Instagram, it's at thethinkersound with 1 S. Same on YouTube and TikTok, at thethinkersound with 1 S. And on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, it's The Thinkers. Thank you.
All right, well, you heard it here, folks. Thanks for tuning in to The Thinkers. And as always, you can reach out to them on The Thinkers Sound or The Thinkers, wherever you get your music. Thank you guys so much for being here. It's been a pleasure to interview you guys.
Thank you, Clark.
Thank you, Clark. Yeah, thank you for having us.